time for Dodger Baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the San Diego Padres. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Sunday to you, wherever you may be. We're happily at Dodger Stadium for the final game with the Padres and Arizona on the horizon. For the Dodgers, they take the field 2 games in front of the Giants, who are in Chicago. And for the Dodgers, trying to keep moving against the Padres, they've won 9 of the last 15. Remember, 3 left with San Diego right at the end of the year. Today's pitchers for San Diego, a left-hander. No surprise there. The Dodgers are 16-19 against left-hand starters. So Andy Green sends out Christian Friedrich, who has not won a game since June the 23rd. He's really struggling, 4-10, trying to get well against the Dodgers. And for Los Angeles, Jose De Leon, 24-year-old right-hander, behind Urias as the number 1 prospect. He was 7-1 in Oklahoma City. By the way, his number is 87. That stands for his birthday, August the 7th, and he is the 7th different pitcher used by the Dodgers in the last 7 games. One other note, tomorrow, Labor Day, beginning the series with Arizona, it will be Mr. Zach Greinke on the mound with a record of 12-4 against Kenta Maeda, 13-8. So pull up a chair, relax, spend Sunday with us. Good ball game and a whole lot more coming up right after this. Pleasant Sunday afternoon to you, wherever you may be. We're at Dodger Stadium, final game of the series with the San Diego Padres. Dodgers woke up today 2 games in front of the Giants and then got great news. You probably know that last night Clayton Kershaw pitched at Rancho Cucamonga, 3 innings, 5 strikeouts, made 35 pitches. Most importantly, every third out when he had to get off the bench and go back out to the mound, he said he felt fine. In the past, that hurt his back. And then, of course, the big question was, how do you feel this morning after pitching last night? We bumped into him in the clubhouse, and he said, I feel fine. So we put that all together, and before we knew it, the Dodgers made the announcement. Clayton Kershaw is ready and will pitch in Miami when the Dodgers begin their road trip on Friday, September the 9th. So the Dodgers starting off in big news, and then the little cherry on the top of the sundae. Jose De Leon, the young rookie, going to the mound. Jose is 6'2", 185, wearing his birthday on the back, 8 for the month of August, 7 for the day. He's from Isabela in Puerto Rico. We understand his mom and dad, his dad Jose and his mom Audie, are here today to watch the young right-hander pitch. He has always been regarded, along with Julio Urias, as the top 2 Dodger pitchers for the future. And let's put it this way, the future has arrived. When Dave Roberts introduced him to the team, one of the things that De Leon talked about, the fact that during the winter, a former Dodger, Alex Cora, who played here about 7 years, he is the general manager of the Winter League in Puerto Rico. Jose said that Alex Cora really helped him. And another personal note, when he was in Little League, he had the nickname Nomar after Garciaparra. The right-hander's first pitch, fastball a little low, ball 1, 1-0. De Leon highly excited to be here, and of course that could be the unseen enemy, whether he can fight the adrenaline. The next pitch, a changeup, and the count now 2 balls and no strikes. 76 degrees, and by the way, he has picked a good time to break in. His 2-0 pitch to Jankowski is low, ball 3, so you know he's fighting it a little bit out there on the mound. The Dodgers in the daylight are 25-12. That's the best record in the major league. 3-0 pitch in there for a strike, and the count 3-1. Travis Jankowski struggling, 0 for 3 last night. Struck out a couple of times, went 0 for 3 in the first game. Hits a ground ball to short, and he's a dead duck as Seager throws him out. Let's take a look now at the San Diego lineup as penciled in by the manager, Andy Green. And Andy has him this way, with Jankowski leading off, Will Myers at first base, Yangervis Solarte at third, Alex Dickerson in left, Ryan Schimpf at second, Hector Sanchez the catcher, Oswaldo Arcia in right, Alexi Amarista at short, and Kristen Frazier on the mound. Here's Will Myers. He looks at his strike, and the count 0-1. Will Myers hitting .259, 24 home runs, 76 runs batted in. He's been fighting it, however, as he takes low, 1 ball and 1 strike. Will hitting about 190 since the All-Star break. We've always felt that Will has supreme confidence in his ability to hit. The 1-1 pitch on the way, he looks at the strike, and the count 1-2. Will, born in Thomasville, North Carolina, lives in High Point. Tall, well-bit, Rookie of the Year in the American League 3 years ago. Swings at a fastball, and down he goes. So a ground ball to short and a strikeout, and we have 2 down in the first inning. Yangervis Solarte coming up. There is his father, Jose, and his mom, Audie, with her hand up to her face. They're living and dying on every pitch, I'm sure. What a thrill to have them here. All right, young Jose has gotten 2, including his first major league strikeout. Yangervis Solarte takes a strike, and the count 0-1. Jose De Leon, the future has arrived. Here's the strike one pitch. Fastball jumps in there at 93, and the count 0-2. He and Julio Urias have become very good buddies, and there are two shoulders to build upon. High fly ball down the left field line. Racing over is Kendrick. Going out is Turner, and the ball drops just in fair ground. A fly ball single to left field. Perhaps Turner over hustling, going that far in pursuit of the ball. Kendrick might have had a better and easier play, but he gave way, and then at the last second it was Turner who gave way. So that's one of those Alphonse and Gaston acts, and a fly ball that should have been caught drops for a base hit. So that brings up Dickerson. Dickerson hitting .249. However, he's done well against the Dodgers, hitting .333, and Alex takes a strike, and the count 0-1. Two down, first inning. We're just starting. A high note of excitement watching a kid break in, someone we've heard a great deal about. Strike one pitch on the way. Right-handed deal, swung on and missed, and the count 0-2. From what we heard from Rick Honeycutt, and we went down and asked him before the game, tell us a little bit about Jose. Basically, great fastball and a wonderful changeup. Kind of a slurvy curve. He's inside, almost hit the batter, and the count 1-2. But basically, fastball changeup. One ball and two strikes the count. Young right-hander set at the belt, looks over at first at Solarte, comes low with a changeup in the dirt, and a 2-ball, 2-strike count. His changeup, by the way, is considered an above average 60 on the scale, going up to 80, which is what the scouts call when they are checking out an athlete. So 2 balls and 2 strikes. De Leon set, ready. Jose delivers, overthrowing that time. He just threw the ball too high, and it grazed the hitter, and we have runners at first and second with 2 down. We'll check the Dodgers defensively. It's Gonzalez and Utley, Culberson and Turner, Kendrick, Hernandez and Puig, and the battery of De Leon and Barnes. So with 2 on, the batter now is Ryan Schimpf, hitting .230, but a power hitter with 16 home runs and a lot of extra base hits. He takes a changeup in for a strike, and the count 0-1. So 2 down, pop fly down the left field line. It might have been caught. Both fielders backed off, and it dropped for a base hit. Then Dickerson walks, and the strike one pitch coming up. Jose delivers, fastball, swung on and missed, and the count 0-2. All of the Padres are draped on the railing in front of the dugout. They want to take a good look at this young phenom. Most interested, they'll face him perhaps at the end of the summer, starting on the 27th of September. Here's the strike 2 pitch on the way, swung on and missed. And De Leon strikes out 2 and walks off the field with the first inning of his big league career underway, with his mom Audie applauding and his dad just sitting back enjoying every moment. Fastball takes care of 2 of them, and at the end of half an inning, no score. failed to score. Base hit by Solarte that might have been caught, and a hit batter on a 2-2 pitch. So here come the Dodgers now. Howie Kendrick, followed by Kike Hernandez in center, Justin Turner at third, Adrian Gonzalez at first, Yasiel Puig in right field, Chase Utley at second, Austin Barnes the catcher, Charlie Culberson at short, Jose De Leon on the mound. On the mound right now, Christian Friedrich, and his first pitch in for a strike, and the count 0-1. By the way, Jose De Leon in his first inning in the major leagues made 20 pitches. Here's the strike one pitch coming up from Christian Friedrich, and it's taken high and away, and that balances things. 1 ball and 1 strike. Christian Friedrich is from Evanston, Illinois. He went to Eastern Kentucky University, was a first-round pick by the Rockies, and there is a physical problem with him. The pitch is bounced in the dirt, and Kendrick just hit it a void. What happened was he was drafted by the Rockies in the first round, and then eventually was picked up by the Angels. But he failed his physical with the Angels, so they sent him back to the Rockies, who then dismissed him, and he was picked up by San Diego. 2-1 pitch is swung on, ground ball to the right side. Schimpf is up with it, and we have 1 out here in the bottom of the first inning. Good idea to take a look at San Diego defensively, and here's the way they shape up with Myers and Schimpf, Amarista and Solarte, Dickerson, Jankowski, and Arcia on the mound. Hector Sanchez behind the plate. So 1 away in the first inning. By the way, we duck in a score. Top of the 7th inning at Wrigley Field, Chicago. Giants 2, Cubs 1. Johnny Cueto still in there pitching for San Francisco. And the first pitch to Kike Hernandez, missing for ball 1. 1-0 the count. So Kike, who sees a lot of service against left-handers. The 1-0 pitch on the way, and that's in for a strike. Christian Friedrich stands 6'4", 215 pounds. Just turned 29 years old, and originally a first-round pick by the Rockies. Fastball is hit into right field for a base hit. So Kike, a line drive single to right. And the batter now will be Justin Turner. The Dodgers having a tough time against left-handers. They are 16-19 against left-hand starters. One other thing about the Dodgers is the fact that in the Western Division, they have won 30 and lost 25. So they're 5 games above 500 inside the West. The Giants are 33-21, 12 games above 500 within the West. So the race is not over by a long shot. Fastball in for a strike, and the count 0-1 to Justin Turner. Friedrich, standing out there in the sunshine, is the son of a dentist. Left-hander, graduated from Loyola Academy. You may know that comedian Bill Murray graduated from that place in Illinois. Back comes a breaking ball in the dirt all the way to the backstop. Down to second base goes Kike and hold on the wild pitch. Needless to say, after that, you might wonder, Friedrich's control is very questionable, and that would be his 5th wild pitch. So he's walked 42 and struck out 72. So when you're not even 2-1 in the big leagues, walks and strikeouts, it's a struggle. Christian got a baseball scholarship to Eastern Kentucky University. Left-hander looks in to get a sign. Turner waiting with a runner at second and 1 out. Left-hander ready, and Christian deals, and that's fouled away. 1 ball and 2 strikes. So Justin Turner, who has been a tower of strength for the Dodgers, day in and day out, year in and year out, like the other fella across the diamond, Adrian Gonzalez, who hits back of him. 1-2 the count. No score. Bottom of the first inning. Friedrich set, looks back at second, and Hernandez now to the plate, and it's fouled back to the screen. It was a few years ago in the Cape Cod League when people pretty much discovered Christian Friedrich. In one inning, he struck out Buster Posey, Jason Castro, and Gordon Beckham. That was in the Cape Cod League playoffs back in '07. So it wasn't too much of a surprise that in June of the next year, the Rockies picked him #1 with a $1.35 million contract. The 1-2 pitch on the way, low and inside, 2 balls and 2 strikes. Interesting, too, for Friedrich, he made his major league debut in 2012 against the Padres. And, of course, now he's one of them. With the Rockies in 2012, he was 5-8. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Turner waiting. Hernandez at second. And the next one is low. 3-2. Friedrich pitches a little bit like a throwing machine, very much over the top, trying to take the stress off his arm and put it on his back. Left-hander plants that foot and looks in again for a sign. Friedrich, a long look, now straightens up. 3-2 pitch on the way is low and away, ball 4. So when you come in with a record of 4-10, when you're 0-8 in the last 10 starts, there are a lot of reasons. I mean, it's certainly not just adding up to tough luck. He actually, with a record of 4-10, he has been helped by the Padre offense in the sense that there could have been 4 other losses. That, in other words, he could easily be 0-14. He also is 5th highest in 4 pitch walks, though he's trying somehow to find the secret. Looks in to get a sign at 29 years old, in direct contrast to the rookie De Leon. The batter now is Adrian Gonzalez. Takes off the plate. Ball 1. 1-0 the count. It seems so easy until you try it. You stand on a mound. You're 60 feet 6 inches away. And then you have to throw it into a strike zone with something on it. Here's the 1-0 pitch on the way. And that's way outside, ball 2. So he is struggling right here at the outset. How many pitches can throw 90, 95, great curveball, etc., and they can't find the plate? Then it becomes truly mental. 2 balls and no strikes. Next pitch fouled away. You remember when Adrian Gonzalez on the road asked for 2 days off? That was kind of a surprise. Well, since taking those couple of days off, that was right at the end of June, Adrian is hitting .330 over a 57-game stretch. 10 home runs, 43 RBIs. So Dave knew if Adrian felt he needed the time, take it off, and boy, has that paid back with big dividends. Here's the 2-1 pitch coming up. Friedrich ready, deal, swung on a towering drive into deep right center field. Jankowski makes a sliding attempt, and the runners have to go back. We were looking for an umpire. The second base umpire was in position to make a call, and the first base umpire was almost as far away as we are. And when Jankowski went into the slide, we really couldn't tell for sure. Well, it turns out to be a magical play by Jankowski, and the runners just do get back. Great play by the young center fielder. Well, they tell us that he is a whiz with the glove, and of course, he has 29 stolen bases, so you know he runs well, and he has just saved Friedrich a couple of runs. So a brilliant play by young Travis Jankowski. A sliding catch of what would have been an extra base hit. And so runners at first and second with 2 down, and Yasiel Puig coming up. I'm always looking for the umpire on a ball like that. And of course, there wasn't anybody out there in that position. So it was up to first base umpire Vic Carapazza from the foul line in right field. The pitch to Yasiel in for a strike, and the count 0-1. So Gonzalez losing a possible extra base hit and a couple of ribbies. 0-1, the count to Yasiel Puig. Friedrich, who's been saved by the offense, has been saved by his center fielder defensively. He comes back to Puig, works it in a high strike, and the count 0-2. Yasiel's body language tells you he's not happy with it. Chris Guccione is the plate umpire. 0-2. Puig back up and waiting. Friedrich looks in, getting a sign. 2 on, 2 out, no score, first inning. Friedrich with a 2-strike count comes back to Puig. Slow curveball, and it's low. Ball 1. The plate umpire, Chris Guccione, working on his 10th year. His first major league game, he was at third base, and Tommy Glavine had a 1-0 shutout victory against the Dodgers in Atlanta. 1 ball and 2 strikes the count. Puig waiting. 2 on, 2 out. Friedrich off the rubber. Left-hander straddling. Plants the left foot and looks in to get a sign. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Yasiel Puig. 1-2 pitch coming up, swung on and foul back. So the count remains 1-2. Yasiel 2 for 4 in his debut with the Dodgers. Meanwhile, talking about debut, young Jose De Leon, all alone in his little world right now in his first major league game. Boy, what a great moment in a young man's life. 1 ball and 2 strikes the count. Puig waits. Friedrich delivers. Swung on. Big bounce to the short. The quick flip to second for the force play, and that's it. No runs, 1 hit, 2 left, thanks to Travis Jankowski's catch. And at the end of an inning, no score. Chapter in the young life of Jose De Leon. In the first inning, he had 2 strikeouts with Myers and Schimpf. He gave up a fly ball single and hit a batter, and starts off with that breaking ball, the slider, for a strike. Hector Sanchez, veteran catcher, left-hand batter. Jose comes back and Hector takes very high. 1 ball and 1 strike. Derek Norris caught the first 2 games. Hector at one time a couple of years ago with the Giants, and the count now 1-2. Sanchez from Maracay in Venezuela, and the left-hand hitter. It's a ground ball exactly where Culberson was stationed, and Charlie throws him out. So 1 away on placement. Like real estate, location, location, location. And now Oswaldo Arcia coming up, starting in the outfield for the first time in the series. Arcia, left-hand batter, an even 6, 220, 25 years old, and from Anoco in Venezuela, which they tell me is an oil town. He was a switch hitter and he gave it up. Natural left-handed swing, so they told him to stick with it. And he probably lifts one back to third, down the line. Trio of Dodgers. It is caught by Charlie Culberson. He came out of nowhere. Great play by Charlie. Turner was way down the line. Kendrick was charging, and Charlie just was not listening to footsteps, eyes riveted on the ball, and makes the catch. And boy, that's not easy. You know there are people converging from either side, but you stay on the ball. So a wonderful play for Charlie Culberson. 2 down in the second. Alexi Amarista coming up. Amarista, who'd been on the DL, gives you a little problem because he may be 5'7", maybe 5'6". Swings, doesn't get it, and the count 0-1. Amarista is from Barcelona, but if you think Spain, you're wrong. It's Barcelona, Venezuela. 5'7", maybe 150 pounds. Takes way off the plate. You say, well, he's a little guy. Yeah, sure, he's a little guy. But he's a very, very good player. Next one is swung on and fouled away. Amarista was originally drafted by the Angels and came over to the Padres 3 years ago, and he has stayed with them. Just off the DL and back to action. Luis Sardinas played short in the first 2 games. The next pitch swung on and missed. Down he goes. That would be the 3rd strikeout for Jose. A 1-2-3 inning as well. Applause from Mom. And at the end of an inning and a half, no score.
during Vince Scully weekend, beginning Friday, September 23rd through Sunday, September 25th. Highlights include Friday's pregame ceremony featuring special guests and Saturday's limited edition commemorative coin giveaway. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/LA Loves Vin.
Bottom of the second inning, Chase Utley, then Austin Barnes, Charlie Culberson against the left-hander Friedrich, and Christian's first pitch, a strike, 0-1. I've not been down in the clubhouse in a while, and all of a sudden I saw the result of a bet made quite a while ago between Utley and Seager about hitting home runs in a game. Strike one pitch to Chase, swung on, pulled on the ground to Myers, and Willa will do it himself. Anyway, Seager beat Utley on the bet, and the bet was to change the color of his hair, because Corey the Kid always teasing Utley about his gray hair. Well, Chase colored his hair, saw him this morning, couldn't believe it. He's 15 years younger at least, so he didn't lose a bet. He gained years. Wow, remarkable. Way to go, Corey. Keep the older fellas feeling very young. So Utley's gray hair is gone. But when I complimented him on him, he said, yeah, but the upkeep, the maintenance is really tough. So he's going to have to continue to look about 30 years old. Great look. Wow. All right, one away. No score in the ball game, and the batter is Austin Barnes, the young catcher, up and down from Oklahoma City, but he can also play other positions. He's not only caught, he's played second base and third base. You remember Mike Gallego? He played in the big leagues for 13 years, third base coach at Oakland. Well, he is the uncle of Austin Barnes. Austin was born in Riverside and lives in Corona. And he's been catching Jose De Leon at Oklahoma City, so it was a perfect match to have them together here in Los Angeles. The pitch to Barnes missing, and so Friedrich fighting as De Leon will be getting ready to make his debut as a hitter. 3-0 the count. One out. Second inning, no score. Fastball is swung on and lined into left field. So the green light for Austin Barnes on a 3-0 count, and he promptly bangs it to left.
Shortstop, number 6.
So after the ground ball to Will Myers, Barnes comes up with a base hit, the Dodgers' second hit against Friedrich. Charlie Culberson, who made a wonderful play going down the line and catching that high pop fly off the bat of Arcia. Charlie hitting .233, but does very well, hitting well over 300 against left-hand pitching. So he's in there to give Corey Seager a rest. And the first pitch to Charlie is taken low. So for Friedrich, I'm sure it's maddening. He makes a lot of pitches. He's constantly fighting the control, behind on a lot of hitters. Pretty tough to exist in the big leagues under that kind of condition. 1 ball and no strike to Culberson. 1 out, second inning, no score. Friedrich comes back, this time a high strike, and the count 1-1. Well, the last we heard, it was 2-1 Giants. They're now in the top of the 8th inning, and Cueto is in there, having already thrown 97 pitches through 7 innings. More than that, he'll have to go through the heart of the Cubs' order if he stays in the game. The 1-1 pitch, breaking ball, foul ball at the plate, rolled out towards Friedrich, but no play. 1-2 the count. So Cueto will have to face the heart of the lineup. Well, you know, when you talk about the heart of the lineup for the Cubs, you can jump at 2 names right away. Anthony Rizzo, the first baseman, and wherever Chris Bryant is playing, whether it's at third or left field. 1 ball and 2 strikes the count. On deck for his first major league at bat, Jose De Leon. 1-2 the count. Culberson hits a ground ball and finds a hole into right field for a base hit. Barnes keeps on going, draws a throw, and it's cut off. So the Dodgers now runners at first and third with one out, and Jose De Leon coming up. And the first thing for him is to listen to Chris Woodward, the third base coach, immediately calling him to huddle. So the ground ball, as the players say, had eyes and just saw its way into right field. So here is Jose De Leon. The Dodgers would probably ask him to bunt. Just bunt to get Culberson over to second and leave it up to Howie Kendrick. We'll see. And we'll also find out if indeed they ask him to bunt, if De Leon can do it. All right, De Leon getting a warm welcome as he checks in at the plate. First and third, one out, no score, bottom of the second. Friedrich out of a stretch, checks the runners. The bunt is taken and the pitch is low, ball one. So boy, Will Myers at first base was so positive that Jose was bunting. I mean, he was racing to home plate. So again, Jose checking with Chris Woodward. First and third, one out, second inning, no score. Myers again off the corner of the bag and ready to charge. Here he comes. Full swing, a little topper to third base. The out will be at first. So that's a swinging bunt. In other words, it still managed to advance the runner to second base, which is what the Dodgers wanted from him. A little tapper to third. No sacrifice. A little out, but it did the job. And of course, Solarte first had to look Barnes back to the bag at third before throwing to first. So the Dodgers now second and third. De Leon gets a few high fives, and they leave it up to Kendrick, who grounded out in the first inning. Howie with 8 home runs, 35 runs batted in. Friedrich looks in to get a sign. Now the left-hander ready with 2 out, and the pitch to Howie is taken inside, ball one. Interesting how baseball goes. The night before, Friday night, Kendrick had a 4-hit game for the 5th time this year. Then last night, he not only was 0 for 3, but he grounded into 2 double plays. So now he's up there with a chance to pick up some runs, and we'll see what happens. 1 ball and no strike. Off-speed pitch, the changeup fouled away, and the count 1-1. One thing for Friedrich, because his control is so shaky, he makes a lot of pitches. So this will be his 38th pitch, and he's only in the second inning. The left-hander checks. Now ready, and his 1-1 pitch to Howie, swung on, ground ball to the second baseman Schimpf. He picks it up and throws him out, and at the end of 2, no score. walk into the dugout, see your name in the lineup card, go out to the mound, strike out a hitter, Wil Myers, and continue through 2 innings, heading for the 3rd. Mom and Dad ecstatic as to what's taking place. And young Jose De Leon going to the mound, 3rd inning, no score. We mentioned it last night. Rich Hill suddenly became a superb pitcher by a little thing, moving on the rubber from the first base side of the rubber to the third base side of the rubber. And the same thing has happened with De Leon. Right now, he is at the first base side of the rubber, working his hitter, and he's out in front 0-2. Interesting thing about Jose De Leon was the sun. That's right, the sun. The next pitch is high, 1 ball and 2 strikes. He was pitching, I believe, for Oklahoma City in Albuquerque, and the August sun was right in his eyes. The pitch is strike 3 called. That takes care of Friedrich. 4 strikeouts for De Leon, and the batter will be Jankowski. Anyway, as De Leon said, I never really had that before where the sun was straight in my eyes, so I moved over my hat. I moved it down a little bit. That forced me to get my head lower when I was throwing, and I was able to stay more in line with the plate and release the ball the right way. The bunt in the air, charging Turner, picks it with the glove, throws to first in time. Bang, bang, play. Whoa. That was a great bunt and an even greater effort from Justin Turner. However, let's see. They might very well appeal and ask the play to be reviewed. It was bang, bang at first. So they're on the phone to check the videographer, and in a moment we'll see. So let's get back to the sun and how it influenced Jose De Leon by sliding the cap over and down. So immediately he learned something else about what to do when in time if the sun is in your eyes. That inning, he made 9 pitches, 9 strikes, 3 strikeouts, and that game tied a season high with 10 strikeouts, all because the sun was in his eyes and he found a way to use it instead of complaining about it. Meanwhile, we're waiting for that close play. It looks like the runner, Jankowski, beat the throw, though I would not be surprised if they don't say safe. And that's the call, safe. So Jankowski, with a great bunt, is safely aboard despite a wonderful effort by Justin Turner. That is the second hit of De Leon. One, a high fly ball. Turner went down, Kendrick and charging in. They both gave up on it, thinking there was going to be a collision. So that was the first hit he allowed, and now a bunt single is the second. Wil Myers struck out in the first inning. Will, Rookie of the Year in the American League, takes high, ball 1. That was back in 2013. His biggest thrill, he hit a grand slam home run at Yankee Stadium against CC Sabathia. That's enough of a thrill for any young player. The 1-0 pitch on the way, and that swung on and hit down the left field line, foul, and back into the stand, 1-1. We mentioned earlier about the fact that Jose De Leon wears number 87, which is his birthday. Jose Dominguez wears 87, that's his birthday. And another August 7th birthday, although he doesn't wear that number, Mike Trout. 1-1 pitch is just off the plate, and a 2-1 count. Sergio Romo is pitching the bottom of the 8th inning against the heart of the Chicago lineup. Giants lead 2-1. We'll keep an eye on that one. Here's the 2-1 pitch to Wil Myers, and that's taken low. So Jose behind. 3 balls and 1 strike. They tell me if you're a hitter, you have a big trouble because De Leon hides the ball back of his right hip better than most pitchers. Here's the 3-1 pitch on the way. Fastball for a strike. 3-2. He keeps his hand behind his right hip, after taking the ball from his glove. Right now, he's holding the ball behind. Now out of a stretch. 3-2 pitch with the runner at first and draws a throw, and Jankowski, with 29 stolen bases, dives back. Padres have a good record if Jankowski steals a base in a game. And there he goes. Instead, ground ball to short. Tough play for Culberson, but he's got the arm to do it and throws out Myers. Advancing to second is Jankowski. And with 2 down, Yangervis Solarte coming up.
26, Yangervis Solarte.
That was a good big league play by Charlie Culberson, and he certainly belongs up here. Tough play because Myers runs so well. It was not just ho-hum ground ball to short. So Will losing a tough play. Jankowski is at second. And the batter is Solarte. And one thing the Dodgers have to worry about is where Justin Turner is. The pitch to Solarte is a high drive to deep right field and gone for a home run. So Jose De Leon is welcome to the big leagues. A home run by Solarte. Solarte's 15th home run. And the Padres are on the board, winning now 2-0. They all give him up. He just gives them up very early. So Solarte 2 for 2. He has 2 RBIs, and the Padres lead 2-0. So here is Alex Dickerson, left-hand batter. He looks at a pitch low, ball 1, 1-0. Yeah, the big difference between the high minors and the majors. The 1-0 pitch on the way is swung on and popped up. Turner staring up into that bright sky and one-hands it. But Solarte hits one out with a man aboard, and that was that bunt by Jankowski. So at the end of 2.5 innings, it's 2-0 San Diego. We were delighted to show Mom and Dad watching Jose enjoying himself with strikeouts. What about Mom's reaction on the home run by Solarte? Well, take a look. Her hands are up. Long fly ball to right. Boom. Father, implacable. He will just pick up his scorecard and write it in. The ups and downs of the parents of a big leaguer on his very first outing. And he's being consoled right now a little bit. Bottom of the third, 2-0 in favor of San Diego. Hernandez, Turner, and Gonzalez. Friedrich's first pitch in for a strike. Well, we told you Sergio Romo was pitching the bottom of the 8th inning. Dexter Fowler struck out. Chris Bryant popped up. However, then they brought in the left-hander Javier Lopez to replace Romo, and Anthony Rizzo, the left-hand hitting first baseman, blooped a single to center. Then Ben Zobrist, a switch hitter, grounded into a fielder's choice, and that was the 8th inning. So they go to the 9th at Wrigley. Giants 2, Cubs 1. Light breeze blowing left to right here. Hernandez takes in the dirt. Kike single to right field in the 1st inning. Solarte didn't need the breeze. He got enough of that for that home run to right field. Timeout for the moment. Hector Sanchez apparently getting a little bit of that. It's going to bounce. That becomes dangerous and got him underneath the face guard, right on the chin. Isn't that amazing? I mean, they have all kinds of equipment, and yet there is a way to get hurt. Of course, as a veteran catcher, and Hector's been doing it a long time, most of them do the same thing. They just shrug it off. I don't know, maybe they'll have an extra extension to prevent that. Hector's 27, from Venezuela, 5'11", 210, and he's been playing professionally since 2007. Originally signed by the Giants. But if there's any way to get hurt in baseball, you'll get it, even for a quick moment. The 1-2 pitch, high, 2-2. A bouncer that went underneath the mask, even though you would think that extension, but nope, the bouncer came right up underneath it. 2 balls and 2 strikes. And line to left field, racing over to make the one-hand catch is Alex Dickerson. Nice play. So Hernandez, who had single to right, the divot replaced by Dickerson, who's obviously a golfer at heart. Nice diving rollover catch for an out. 1 down. Justin Turner walked in the 1st inning. Of course, remember, you're talking about a good defensive play. Yeah, that was good. But how about the catch by Jankowski in the 1st inning on the ball hit by Gonzalez? That was great. Travis really made the job. And then in the 3rd inning, Jankowski bunted for a base hit and was on base when Solarte hit the home run. They say the record is something like this. If Jankowski has a stolen base, the Padres are like 18-4. Well, he didn't steal a base, but he was going. Pitch off the plate. 1 ball and 1 strike. Christian Friedrich making his 46th pitch. That would mean 13 in the inning. Fastball missed. 2 balls and 1 strike. Friedrich to repeat. 29 years old. Lovely crowd on a beautiful day. 76 degrees. 3-1. Don't forget, tomorrow it's a 5-10 game, so you can come celebrate the holiday and then watch the Dodgers go up against Zach Greinke. "3-1" pitch on the way. And off the plate, ball 4. If you missed it, it's worthy of a second look. Adrian Gonzalez was the man who hit the ball. And it looks like an extra base hit. And then watch Jankowski. A one-handed sliding catch, and then quickly gets up and gets the ball back to the infield before there could be an advance. A wonderful play by young Travis. Not so wonderful to Adrian Gonzalez. He loses a couple of ribbies. He has 76 with 16 home runs. Runner at first, 1 out. Right side of the infield is loaded. A bunt up along third. There's nobody there, of course. You would think a hitter would do that all day long, but it's not that easy. So a wonderful play by Adrian Gonzalez. He's tired of the middleman in shallow right field throwing him out at first base. So this time, here, no man's land. Amarista comes over, but all he can do is pick it up. So the Dodgers now have runners at first and second. They had first and second and 1 out in the first. They had first and third with 1 out in the second. And now they have first and second with 1 out in the third. For Friedrich, he is walking a very, very narrow wire in a windstorm. And the batter is Yasiel Puig. And that pitch gets away from Sanchez, and over to third goes Turner. So we'll assume that is a pass ball unless we hear otherwise. We ought to take another look. Yeah, from this distance. Well, in the dirt, but you know, technically, just because the pitch is in the dirt, it is not technically a wild pitch. There are times where the official scorer feels a major league catcher should be able to handle a pitch in the dirt. It's going to be a wild pitch. That would be 5 for Friedrich so far in his young career this year. So lack of control, wild pitch, and he's really struggling. A 2-0 lead for San Diego could disappear in a moment. So Puig hit into a force play, ground ball to short. Yasiel 0 for 1. 1 ball and no strikes. That dropped low. 2-0. So remember, I'm not sure in trying to check on his background why they didn't go into that. I guess for good reasons. But he was drafted by the Rockies, picked up by the Angels. Then he had a physical, and the Angels didn't like the physical. They said to the commissioner, we really don't want him. He didn't measure up physically, so he went back to the Rockies, who immediately got rid of him, and San Diego picked him up. 2-0. And a little foul out of play. They are also counting Friedrich's innings. So you have to believe he had a problem maybe with his back, but they're trying to be very careful until he gets himself back to being 100%. So you have to salute him just going out there. It's a battle for him. So far, so good. He's leading 2-0. Two-one pitch coming up, and a drive to left field. Got a lot of Puig behind that one. It is gone. Oh, I'm sure he thought about it every day he was in Oklahoma City. If I ever get back, and he is back. And the Dodgers lead 3-2. And as we said, for Friedrich, that 2-0 lead was not going to be there very long. The last home run by Yasiel Puig was July 4th, appropriately enough, against Baltimore. And he got a home run pitch, belled high, right over the plate, and it was a line drive home run into the bullpen. So the Dodgers now turn it around to lead 3-2. And the batter is Chase Utley. He looks at a strike, 0-1. For Friedrich, that was the 13th home run that he has allowed. So the left-hander, for a brief moment, enjoyed a 2-0 lead, but you knew in your heart it was not going to last. Strike one pitch is foul back. 0-2 to the new Utley. Nothing wrong with the old Utley, but he's newer looking. Good for him. Meanwhile, Yasiel Puig lets the line living a dream. Well, it's happened. Strike 2 pitch on the way is hit in the air down the left field line, going foul and out of play. In the Dodgers' first game, where Clayton Richard was matched up against Jose, he was matched up against Urias. Yasiel Puig played in that game, went 2 for 4, but faced a pitcher against whom he hit his first major league home run. Well, he hits one today to turn the game around 3-2. Utley pulls one foul, and the count stays 0-2. So in the inning, Hernandez lost at least a single, a diving catch by Dickerson. Turner walked. Gonzalez bunted against the overflow, and it was a base hit to third. And then Puig came up, and that was that. Still only one out, 0-2 to Utley. And down he goes. So 2 down in the third inning, and the batter will be Austin Barnes.
Number 15, Austin Barnes.
That would be the first strikeout for Christian Friedrich. Barnes single to left field. He's 1 for 1. Dodgers 3 runs on 5 hits. The Padres 2 runs on 3 hits. Home runs the bonus, that by Solarte with 1 aboard, and by Puig with 2 aboard. Yasiel sitting not quite at the feet of De Leon, but Jose sitting up top. And this pitch to Barnes popped up into shallow right field. Arcia is there and makes the catch for the 3rd out. It's worth a look. Yep, Yasiel Puig comes back to Dodger Stadium and hits a 3-run home run, then sits in the dugout to talk to young Jose De Leon after making Jose feel much better. 3-2 Dodgers. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by the Dodge Challenger. Test drive one at your local Dodge dealer today. And by Jack in the Box. Taste the all-new Jack's Brewhouse Bacon Burger today at Jack in the Box. Limited time only at participating restaurants. Mickey the Hats, Mickey Hatcher, turned the clock back to 1988, Game 5 in the World Series against Oakland, and Mickey hits a home run and celebrates like no one else can. Meanwhile, 4th inning, Schimpf, Sanchez, and Arcia, and we must tell you that Santiago Casilla has just blown his 7th save for the Giants, leading 2-1. Garcia came in the bottom of the ninth inning. Addison Russell started a double. Jason Hayward was the batter. A wild pitch got Russell to third, and then Hayward singled to drive in the tying run. So the Cubs trying to steal it now in the bottom of the ninth inning, tied up with the Giants 2-2. Schimpf got some power, comes up empty with that swing. That would be 5 strikeouts for Jose De Leon. A bunt single and a home run by Solarte. The 2 runs back in the 3rd inning. Now the catcher, Hector Sanchez, grounded to short. Hector was about 17 when he signed with the Giants, so he started off very early. One thing, of course, for him, he tends to get a little big, though he does have weight issues. He's listed at 210. Hard to believe a catcher with all the work they expend and effort and energy, but he has to be careful. Foul ball. We saw Sanchez take that lick at the chin, remember? The bouncer that came up under the mask. He's had so many different things like that happen to him. They call him a baseball magnet. He had won a direct hit from Nate Shearholz a couple of years ago. That really worried him. He hits a ground ball to Gonzalez. Overhands to De Leon for the 2nd out. 2 down.
Number 34, Oswaldo Arcia.
They said in talking about Sanchez and the magnet that he actually wears a T-shirt with the picture of a magnet on the T-shirt. So he's living with his bruises. But they also say he laughs a lot about it, which is about the only thing he can do if you're a catcher. So 2 out. Arcia popped up 0 for 1. Strike. Oswaldo waiting, and another strike. Arcia hit his first major league home run and made a little bit of history. At the time, the 9th youngest Twins player to homer in a game. He was 21 years 11 months. The youngest Twin player, Joe Mauer, 2004. Arcia hit his 2013. He's 25 now. 2-2 the count to Oswaldo Celestino Arcia from Venezuela. Beautiful day. A lot of angels up there riding around in the blue. Meanwhile, De Leon takes care of Arcia. The young Jose might have given up a home run to Solarte, but he has struck out 6 in 4 innings and lead 3-2. inning, Dodgers have turned it around to lead 3-2. The Cubs are trying to turn it around against the Giants. The Dodgers will have Charlie Culberson, then the pitcher Jose De Leon, and the leadoff man Howie Kendrick. De Leon made 14 pitches in the 4th inning, and he has made 58 so far in his major league debut. First pitch to Culberson, very high. Charlie single to right, has made a couple of very, very nice defensive plays. 1 ball and no strikes. Fastball up and away. It seems that's Friedrich's problem, behind on so many hitters. He has walked 2. Two and 1 the count. Don't tell me Sanchez got hit again. He's talking to the plate umpire. Let's see. Oh my gosh. The magnet. I wonder if he's wearing that t-shirt with the magnet on it. He keeps laughing about it, but I mean, it's not really a laughing matter, especially in these days when they're so conscious of concussion. 2-2 the count to Charlie Culberson. Bottom of the 4th, 3-2 Dodgers. Solarte a 2-run home run. Puig a 3-run home run. De Leon waiting on deck, and then Kendrick. 2-2. And that's popped in the air off first base. Myers comes over to take a look. Can't lean in that far. So it's still 2-2. Dodgers will open the doors tomorrow at 5:10 game time. And old friend Zach Greinke trying to throw a wrench into their machinery. Greinke will face Kenta Maeda. Then 2 regular night games with Arizona, and the club is off and running. Culberson comes up empty, and we have 1 out in the 4th inning. Remember, after the 3 games with Arizona, the Dodgers will then have only 1 more homestand, because they will go out starting on the 9th, 3 in Miami, 3 in New York at Yankee Stadium, and 4 in Arizona. And remember the news what we gave you at the very start. Apparently Clayton Kershaw so reinvigorated after the 3 innings in Rancho last night, and he's going to pitch against Miami. I'm not quite sure what day. They play in Miami 9, 10, and 11 of September, but one of those days he'll be going out there. After that long trip, the final homestand, 3 with the Giants, 4 with Colorado. A little bounce at the shortstop. Amarista takes care of that. So one thing for De Leon, he's made contact, grounded out twice, and Howie Kendrick coming up. Kendrick twice grounded out to the right side. Though he went 4 for 5 in the first game, and he has turned around to go 0 for 5 without hitting a ball out of the infield in the next 2 games. At Wrigley Field, thanks to the double by Addison Russell, who eventually scored on the base hit by Hayward, the Cubs have tied the Giants, and they're going to the 10th inning. 0-2 to Howie. For Bochy and the Giants, another depressing game. Of course, it's not over yet, but they had a 2-1 victory in the pocket, and Casilla could not keep it there. And that's hammered down the left field line, but foul. So Howie back to try it again. We're in the 4th, 2 out. Dodgers 3 runs, 5 hits. San Diego, 2 runs, 3 hits. There's young Jose. 1 more inning and he could possibly get a win. Ground ball up the middle. To Howie, a 2-out single, and that will bring up Kike Hernandez. I just thought, the old story, don't think, Scully, it hurts the club. But I was thinking on a Sunday afternoon, I'd have a little fun with you in between, not interfering with the game. I have some very, very easy questions and the obvious answer, which is anything but correct. That makes sense? Okay. Number 1. How many years did the 100 Years' War take? 0-1 to count to Kike. I mean, it's not as easy as who's buried in Grant's tomb. I mean, I think it's pretty easy to guess that. How long was the 100 Years' War? Well, it was 116 years. Every now and then I'll sprinkle 1 or 2 in during the game. Of course, you might want me to sprinkle it out. No harm, no foul, as the late Chick would say. God bless him. 1 ball and 1 strike to count to Kike. All right, 1 more. What country makes Panama hats? Panama hats. It's Ecuador. Yeah. 1-1 to count. Yeah, that's enough. 2 of those an inning would be plenty, right? But it is kind of fun and somewhat interesting, I think. It's 3-2 in favor of the Dodgers. 4th inning. Hernandez 1 for 2. Could be 2 for 2. Way out in front of a change. Single to right. And then in the 3rd inning, Dickerson made a great sliding catch to take an extra base hit away from him. There he is, hoping to have another shot. He's very deep. Arcia is up a bit in right. And we'll see about the 1-2 pitch. Low pushed out in front. Scrambling by Hector. Hector, the baseball collector. And a 2-ball, 2-strike count. San Diego scored 2 in the 3rd. Dodgers came back in the bottom half with 3, and that's it. 3-2 Dodgers in the 4th inning. Off the plate. Friedrich's pitch is starting to mount up. 78. Wouldn't be very long to have his 80 pitches made in 4 innings, and that's averaging 20 an inning, which is much too much. 3-2. Runner going. 3-2 with 2 down, and Kike fouls it off. So Howie back to first. Dodgers trying to do something positive against left-hand pitching. I mean, they are in first place in the West, but they're 16. I told you. Look at Chase's hair. Is that great? Doesn't he look 15 years younger? Meanwhile, Kike unloads down the left field line. Here comes Dickerson at the railing and watches it go foul. Boy, that was close. So Howie back to first. 3-2 the count to Kike. Friedrichs backs off the mound thinking about a close call. Now Christian up on top and ready to go to work again. He's 6'4", 215 pounds. Runner goes, foul back. So there you have it. 81 pitches, and he's not out of the 4th inning. he wouldn't be around very long going 180 pitches anyway, not even in the old days. In this day, 90 pitches and he becomes very, very questionable. All right, 3-2 again. Runner goes, and a breaking ball takes care of Kike. No runs, 1 hit, 2 strikeouts for Friedrich in the inning, and at the end of 4, 3-2 Dodgers. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by your Southern California Toyota dealers. Toyota's annual clearance event is here. Save big on the entire 2016 Prius family. Hurry in today. We've been showing a lot of pictures from the past. We thought we would show you one right at the moment. And the moment means last night. 3-run home run by Yasmani Grandal that really broke the game open. 38 home runs as a Dodger, and interestingly enough, 10 of the 38 come with 2 men on base. And we go 3-2 Dodgers in the 5th, and a strike to Alexi Amarista. Aroldis Chapman came out of the Cub bullpen and, to no one's surprise, set the Giants down quickly in the top of the 10th inning. 1-1. One ball and 1 strike. 2-1. Amarista, who first came to the Padres 2012 after a year with the Angels, fouls it away. He's hit 5 home runs, 2 years, in fact, back-to-back for the Padres in 13 and 14. About 5'7" and maybe 150 pounds. And hits one into left center, base hit. Kike up with it. So Amarista representing the tying run at first with nobody out. Now Amarista stole a lot of bases in the minor leagues, but as he got up into the big leagues, they kind of disappeared. Back about 7 years ago, he stole 38 bases, and in the big leagues, maybe 12. So the Dodgers look bunt now. The bunt is down. The play is to first. And down to second base goes the tying run, Amarista. So a nice sacrifice by Christian Friedrich.
Center fielder Travis Jankowski.
1 out, and here comes Travis Jankowski. Jankowski grounded to short in the first inning and then bunted for a base hit in the third. He was called out at first. Padres asked for the play to be reviewed, and they got the right call. Jankowski was 0 for 7 in the series, and then he got the bunt single. And another bunt. Down to get it is De Leon, and throws the ball down the right field line. Backed up by Utley. The run will score anyway, as little Amarista almost knocked Grandal down at home plate. It was a great effort by Chase Utley to back up the overthrow, but the run scores, and we have a 3-3 tie. Typically, Utley always in the right place. See him charging over to back up first base, and the throw gets away. Chase immediately throws to the plate, not in time, and then big Grandal is upended by Amarista. Though Jankowski did not advance, stayed at first. Dave Roberts out to talk to the plate umpire, Chris Guccione, for the moment. We said Grandal, I'm sorry, it was Austin Barnes who went down. I would think it would be a little more than Amarista to knock Grandal down. So it was Barnes who got tangled up with the little shortstop, and down he went. Using Grandal is just a habit. Okay, we have a 3-3 tie. Will Myers has struck out and grounded out. Strike one pitch on the way. 0-2. So the overthrow by De Leon, I would certainly assume that's an error. And Amarista went all the way to score from second base. So 3-3 in the fifth inning. Dodgers have won 9 of the 14. Dave Roberts has to be annoyed that the last place club in the West is that close to the first place club. And there's a ground ball single into right field. And despite Puig's arm, there was no chance, although a good throw again. But sliding into third ahead of it goes Jankowski. So De Leon in some trouble now, and it was all caused by his own overthrow. Just a ground ball punched into right field. Good bit of hitting by Myers. It goes 1 for 3. So the batter now is Yangervis Solarte, who singled to left and hit a 2-run home run in the third. If you're wondering about how to report that throwing error, we knew De Leon had to get an error, but they also gave Jankowski a hit. Off speed, stopped in the dirt right near the plate. 0-1 the count. One out, a run in. We have a 3-3 tie. Runners at first and third as San Diego tries to take the lead for the second time. They led 2-0 top of the third. Foul ball down the line. We told you that Aroldis Chapman set the Dodgers down in the top of the 10th inning. So that game very much on the line. 2-2, and they're in the bottom of the 10th. We're 3-3 in the top of the 5th. 0-2. Ball one. Yangervis Solarte against Jose De Leon. Solarte facing De Leon. No one throwing in the Dodger bullpen. And a high fly ball to right. Tagging up is the fleet-footed Jankowski. No way Puig is going to get him, so he alertly throws into second base. And that's a heads-up play. Puig knew there was no way to get Jankowski, and he wanted to make sure that Myers was going to stay at first. So a heads-up play, but nothing you can do about the distance of the fly ball. So the run picks up Jankowski, and San Diego leads 4-3. For De Leon, the only thing is, it was his error that set up the inning. So Solarte now with 3 RBIs, mom and dad sitting back, rooting, maybe even praying for De Leon. Throw to first, and they pick off Myers. So Will Myers probably thinking about stealing. He has 24 stolen bases, but not this time. And the Padres pick up 2 and take the lead as Myers hung out to dry without a prayer. And it's 4-3 San Diego. Certainly going to school in his first day in the major leagues. He has pitched tough when needed. He has struck out 6, but his own throwing error has hurt him. He also gave up his first home run to Solarte, but he's still very much in the game. It's 4-3 in favor of San Diego. For the Dodgers, by the way, his error comes as a bit of a shock. The Dodgers and Washington are tied for being the major league best defensive teams. San Diego is the 3rd worst. They've committed 99 and the Dodgers 62 errors. 1 ball and no strike. Justin has walked twice, scored a run, hitting .270. And a strike to make it 2-1. So Turner, Gonzalez, and Puig. The Dodgers 3 runs, a 3-run home run by Yasiel in the 3rd inning. Friedrich pitching tough. He's been in trouble all the time, but he has a lead. Good changeup for a strike. Turner, I think, thought it was outside. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Two and 2. And that's ball 3. So again, Friedrich from the very beginning has made a lot of pitches. Made 87, but he's just beginning the 5th inning, and he's been averaging 20 pitches an inning. Fouled away. All right, you've been patient too long. Another question. From which animal do we get catgut? Foul ball. Catgut. I mean, I'm kind of leading you in the right direction, right? Catgut. We get catgut from sheep and horses. One more. 3-2. Fastball fouled away. Okay, if they're going to hit fouls, we'll pop up another question. This seems impossible. In which month do Russians celebrate the October Revolution? Which month? The October Revolution. November. Well, Turner keeps fouling him. I could come up with more, but I don't. I think I'm pressing my luck as of now. Now that's enough, but only for a while. 3-2 the count to Justin Turner. We're in the bottom of the inning, number 5, and San Diego is leading for the second time in the game, 4-3. Another foul. Heck, I could have asked all the questions, but I'm not gonna. Turner, Gonzalez, and Puig. San Diego led 2-0. Dodgers came back to lead 3-2 on Puig's home run, and then San Diego scrambled and picked up 2 to take a 4-3 lead. And ball 4. So Turner walks for the 3rd time as he really hangs in. And of course, that's the last thing that Friedrich needed. He is getting close to 100 pitches, and in a moment, Kevin Quackenbush will be getting up in the Padre bullpen. In fact, Darren Balsley is going out to the mound right now to talk to Christian. Adrian Gonzalez will be coming up. Adrian hit that ball to deepest right center back in the 1st inning. If it drops, the Dodgers score 2. Instead, a brilliant sliding catch by Travis Jankowski took the extra base hit away, and the Dodgers failed to score. So the next time up, Gonzalez figured, okay, I will, quote, hit him where they ain't. And with the right side of the infield loaded up, he bunted up along 3rd base for a base hit. The Amarista has given up a little of the ground so that he's now a little closer to 3rd base. Four runs, 6 hits for the Padres, 3 runs, 6 hits for the Dodgers. San Diego, a 2-run home run by Solarte. The Dodgers, a 3-run home run by Puig. Justin Turner has stolen 3 bases, 3 out of 4 this year. Slow breaking ball in for a strike. The one thing, the middleman Schimpf does not leave the skin part of the infield. A lot of times with Gonzalez, they load up the right side, but the second baseman is 15-20 feet out on the grass. 0-1. Kind of an awkward, I'm not quite sure whether I should swing or not swing. Little stiff. Not that sweet swing that he has. 0-2. By the way, Chapman went on to pitch his second inning as they go to the 11th inning at Wrigley. Tied up 2-2. Though whatever it was, he was not seeing the ball properly. He had a couple of not Adrian Gonzalez swings, and down he goes. Next up, Yasiel Puig, and he certainly made his contribution. With 2 on in the 3rd inning, he hit a line drive home run into the Dodger bullpen. Now let's see if they'll even allow Richard, and here comes Andy Green. So Friedrich is done. Balsley had been out there, and the left-hander goes out. 2 problems. Yes, he's leading 4-3. However, Turner is his responsibility. And second, or maybe even more importantly, as a starter, he did not make it through 5. We'll be right back.
Head to Dodger Stadium on Tuesday, September 20th, when the first 40,000 fans in attendance will receive a 2016 opening day Vince Scully bobblehead presented by Mercedes-Benz dealers of Southern California. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions.
4-3 in favor of San Diego. The Dodgers get Turner aboard. For the only walks that Friedrich gave up, all 3 of them went to Turner. After striking out Gonzalez, he leaves, and Kevin Quackenbush will pick up. Quackenbush surfaced with San Diego back in 2014. Spent a little time in AAA last year. The Kevin coming in to try and restore order. He's a big man, 6'4" and a good 235 pounds. 27 years old. He'll be 28 in November, and he's working now on Yasiel Puig. Ball 1, 1-0. Last year, Quackenbush was in 57 games. Breaking ball misses. The Quackenbush behind 2-0. Puig hit into a force play in the first inning, and then the big 3-run home run. Quackenbush been a workhorse, 49 games, a lot of decisions, 7 wins, 4 losses. And in the dirt, so now he's behind 3-0 to Yasiel Puig. Chase Utley on deck. Puig does a full turn looking into the Dodger dugout. Not really at the third base coach now, he does. Quackenbush picked up his 7th save against Arizona earlier this month. Opposition hitting .234 against him. Puig with a 3-0 count and way inside ball 4. So Dodgers at first and second with 1 out, and Chase Utley coming up. Friedrich, mixed emotions. He can't get a win because he didn't go 5. And of course he could wind up with 1 run and have no decision in a tie because Puig is Quackenbush's responsibility. But for Christian Friedrich, he has waited a while to pitch, and it wasn't much of a happy day. Utley has grounded out and struck out, but those at-bats were against Friedrich. And he pulls one down the right field line, foul. Chase very quick on that inside pitch to pull. He doesn't waste any time, gets the hips out of the way and goes after it. On deck, Yasmani Grandal to bat for Austin Barnes. No balls and 1 strike. In the dirt, nice save by the magnet, Hector Sanchez. One ball and 1 strike. With a right-hander pitching, Grandal coming up will bat left-handed, which is his power side. 1-1. Change up, but high, ball 2. By the way, in the top of the 11th inning in a 2-2 tie, Denard Span struck out. Joe Panik walked. Buster Posey single, Panik to second. So you have 1 out, runners at first and second, and Hunter Pence facing Aroldis Chapman. Meanwhile, 2-1 count to Utley, 4-3 Padres. That's a strike. 2-2. Two and two. And a high foul ball. That'll give us time to tell you the Giants have runners at second and third. Pence struck out. Both runners moved up as the ball got away at home plate by the catcher. So second and third, and Brandon Belt up there with first base open, facing the fireballer Aroldis Chapman. Belt swings, doesn't get the first one, and the count 0-1. 2-2 the count Utley, and he takes ball 3. So the Giant Cub game 2-2 in the 11th. Giants have runners at second and third, 2 out. Belt at the plate, no balls, 1 strike, and Utley is 3-2 with 2 on and 1 out here in the 5th. And Belt strikes out against Chapman. 3-2 to Utley. Ground ball to the right side by the diving Schimpf. Coming up with his Arcia. Here comes Turner to score. The Dodgers have tied it up, and there are runners at first and third. So Utley a base hit. Run batted in. Puig goes all the way to third. So Quackenbush gives up a walk and a base hit. Still 1 out. That was Gonzalez who struck out. And now Grandal checking in for Austin Barnes. Diving try by Schimpf, but he came up empty. Just missing it by a good 6 inches. Darren Balsley out now to talk to Quackenbush. And Grandal picking up for Austin Barnes. Barnes had singled and flied to right. So the Dodgers with Howie Kendrick along with Austin Barnes having their little handshake. Meanwhile, they're in the bottom of the 11th inning at Wrigley Field. Yasmani Grandal last night had the big moment. He's had a lot of them. But last night in the 4th inning, 2 on and nobody out, and he cleared the center field wall with a 3-run home run to really give the Dodgers the victory. Takes a strike, 0-1. Grandal has 38 home runs since he came to the Dodgers, and of course, as you know, formerly a San Diego Padre. Last year and this year against the Padres, totally different. One reason, he is healthier. Last night it was the big blow. It was a fastball, and he knew exactly what to do with it. Clearing the center field fence, 3-run home run. Dodgers went on to win it 5-1. Now we have a 4-4 tie. Grant Dayton, left-hander, is up in the Dodger bullpen. 1-1. Off speed, ground ball by Myers into right field. Scoring is Puig. Utley on his way to third. So the Dodgers take the lead again, 5-4, as Grandal picks up the tie-breaking run batted in. Quackenbush has not really fooled anybody. He walked Puig, and he's given up singles to Utley and Grandal, and all Friedrich can do is watch. Charlie Culberson is due up, and Corey Seager will be coming up to bat for Charlie Culberson. So Seager checking in the inning. Turner walked and Gonzalez struck out. Then they brought in Quackenbush, and he had given up a walk to Puig and singles to Utley and Grandal, and now he has to face Seager. So Barnes 1 for 2, and he gave way to Grandal. Culberson 1 for 2, and he gives way to Seager, and Andy Green gives way to the score. It's 5-4 in favor of the Dodgers, and the manager of the Padres heading to the mound with an obvious hook. Brandon Morrow, a right-hander, is throwing in the bullpen. Now Quackenbush is still there, so let's see. Left-hander Brad Haynes is also up. I think Green is just trying to eat up some time. Yep. Now he tells Quackenbush that's enough, and we'll be back. The San Diego dugout is concerned. Quackenbush came in and could not get anybody out. Now they bring in Brad Hand, who faced Corey Seager in game 1 of the series and struck him out. Brad is 6'3" and 200. He is 26 years old, out of Chaska, Minnesota. Was a second-round pick by the Marlins right out of high school back in 2008. And as you can imagine, looking at him at 6'3" and 200, he played football and hockey as well as baseball. So here is Seager looking another look at Hand, hitting .335 against righties, .263 against lefties. Rob Segedin is on deck, and Seager is signed in. First and third, one out. Big breaking ball for a strike. 0-1. So Brad Hand trying to restore order. One out, and that was when Gonzalez struck out against Friedrich. Friedrich charged with 4 runs, and Quackenbush has given up the go-ahead run. It got away for the moment and down to second base, drawing a throw, and out at second base is Grandal. Yasmani saw the fact that it looked like Hector Sanchez didn't know where the ball was. Yasmani gambles, and Dave Roberts might very well review the play, or at least ask it to be reviewed. Sanchez pounced on that squirt that got away and picked it up and fired. And it was in time. Amarista put the tag on the hip. It's a question now, that high tag and the left foot. Hard to say. And apparently when the Dodgers look at the video, they will not ask for a review. That was a great play by Sanchez. So that's the second out of the inning. 1-2 the count to Corey Seager. When you think about it, you have to really be a thinker. Now, Sanchez knew as soon as the ball got away, he didn't need any help. His first thought was that runner at first. So he didn't hesitate, picked the ball up and fired. And he got it down there accurately, and Grandal was nailed. 1-2 to Corey Seager. Good breaking ball. Wow, to strike him out. So he's faced Hand twice, and he has struck out each time. And at the end of 5, it's 5-4 Dodgers. The Dodgers played the Padres in San Diego. They won the game 3-0. However, in the course of that game, Willie Davis had his 31-game hitting streak snapped. Up until then, Zach Weed had a 29-game hitting streak, and the three dog, as we called him, had 31, and it came to an end against the Padres on this day. Let's get back to this one. Dodgers use their pinch hitters. Corey Seager takes over at short. Yasmani Grandal does the work behind the plate. And here's Alex Dickerson, takes a changeup away. Jose De Leon still out there. He's made 74 pitches. He's had 2 easy innings. He had the second inning when he retired Sanchez, Arcia, and Amarista 1-2-3. And in the 4th inning, he struck out Schimpf and Arcia and had Sanchez ground out. Otherwise, he struggled, but he's still there, and there's a shot foul down the line. 2-2 the count to Dickerson. Hit by a pitch and popped up. For Dickerson, he was hit twice in the first game. So he's been hit 3 times in the series. 2-2. Foul ball. Two balls, 2 strikes. Just off the plate, ball 3. De Leon has gone the required 5, and the Dodgers are leading 5-4, though he has a shot at a win, but a long way to go. Change down and away, and Dickerson went after it. So he strikes out. 7 strikeouts now. Dodgers have used, would you believe, 15 different starting pitchers. In fact, 7 different starters in the last 7 games. The thing that's puzzling is the fact they've used more than 3 very poor teams. Atlanta, Cincinnati, and San Diego using 14. 0-1 to Schimpf. Ryan Schimpf has struck out twice today. So De Leon, in his major league debut, has struck out 7. Change missing. Remember, we told you, talking to Rick Honeycutt, and he said De Leon has a fastball and a great changeup. An occasional slurvy kind of a breaking ball. That's the fastball. 1-2. De Leon 6'2", about 185. Fastball on the outside corner. That's 8 strikeouts, and Mom loves every second. Dad just keeps note. That's normal. So 8 strikeouts. And now here's Hector Sanchez. Oh, yeah, now Dad's showing some emotion as well. Good. Mom is thrilled. Dad is Jose, and his mom is Audie. That's that great changeup. Boy, was Sanchez out in front of that thing. 0-1. I will say one thing. For the Padres to strike out, that's not news. After 2 games here, they have struck out 25 times, and now 8 more times today. So in 3 games, and we're not nearly finished, they have struck out 33 times in this 3-game series. Oh, wow. And so the swinging Padres get Dad up and Mom thrilled. It is the 9th strikeout for De Leon. He strikes out the side. Good running movement on the pitch. And it's 5-4 Dodgers as we go to the bottom of the 6th. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Shop online at choosenissan.com. And by Children's Hospital Los Angeles. We treat kids better. Well, Jose De Leon getting handshakes all around. Rick Honeycutt talking to him right now. Young man went 6, struck out 9, including the side in the 6th inning. You saw his mom and dad. Other interesting fact, he made 14 pitches in each of the last 4 innings. Ground ball in the out at first, and that'll do it. 1 away, and the batter will be the leadoff man, Howie Kendrick.
Left fielder, number 47.
Seguin hitting for De Leon and taps to short. Grant Dayton is up in the Dodger bullpen, so we assume he'll be coming in. Kendrick, 2 ground balls and a single up the middle. 1 for 3. And a strike. Brad Hand, as we see Dayton getting ready. Hand came in and for the 2nd time in the series, struck out Seager, trying to restore order because the game was getting away on Quackenbush. (5-4) favor the Dodgers. Fouled away. Slider and a good one. What's new with the Giants? Well, nothing much. They're in the 12th inning. 2-2 tie. Giants are at bat. And they're now at 2 outs. Jason Grimm is the pitcher. Aroldis Chapman worked 2. They're tied up 2-2. 1-2 the count to Howie Kendrick. For Jose De Leon, the perfect number of pitches, 86. So he goes 6, could pick up a victory. 9 strikeouts. It would really be impressive if it were against another team, let's face it. I mean, you are looking at a strikeout team. Padres have struck out 34 times in the 3 games. They struck out 30 times in 3 games against Atlanta before coming here. I mean, that has to drive Mark McGwire up a wall. He's the hitting coach. But first of all, you have to hit the ball anyway. 2 down, Kike Hernandez. Single, lost a base hit on a fine catch by Dickerson. Struck out last time up. Dickerson looking for another one. 2-0. All right, you want another question? What is a camel's hairbrush made of? A camel's hair brush. Two and 0 the count. Off the corner, ball 3, 3-0. A camel's hairbrush is made of squirrel fur. In case that might come up in conversation. All right, 3-0 to Kike. 2 down, 6th inning. 5-4 Dodgers. And there's ball 4. So with everything else, Padres have given the Dodgers 5 walks. And that'll bring up Justin Turner, who's walked all 3 appearances in the game today. All right, one other question, and then we'll file that away. The Canary Islands in the Pacific. The Canary Islands. What are they named after? What animal? Oh, the Canary Islands. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. Oh, and 1. Turner has to be restless, hungry to hit a ball, having walked 3 times. It's paid off, however. He scored twice. Dodgers lead 5-4. Bottom of the 6th, 2 out. Hernandez at first. Breeze now blowing out towards right field. Oh, and 2. All right, the Canary Islands in the Pacific are named after what animal? Dogs. For me, I thought a cinch it was a canary. 0 and 2 the count to Turner. Gonzalez on deck. 5 runs, 8 hits for the Dodgers. 4 runs, 6 hits for the swinging Padres. Slider in the dirt. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Ernest Bradley Hand out of Chaska, Minnesota. Big man at 6'3", left-handed all the way. Started his career with the Marlins. Came up and stayed with them for quite a few years until this year coming to San Diego. Turner waiting on a 1 and 2 count. Kike at first, 2 out in the 6th. 5-4 Dodgers. The outfield split. Big gap in left center. They play Jankowski over toward right center. And that's fouled away. We don't keep track of it, but you know, you watch Turner. It seems like he fouls off more pitches than any other player. And most of the foul balls go off to the right. One ball and 2 strikes. He fouled off a bunch in the 5th inning against Friedrich. And eventually Friedrich had to come out. And going after that fastball away, and down he goes. So Turner strikes out, 2 strikeouts for Hand, and at the end of 6, 5-4 Dodgers. Look at what's on the Dodger calendar right around the corner tomorrow at 5:10. The Arizona Diamondbacks. Not only the Arizona Diamondbacks, but it will be Zach Greinke going against the Dodgers. Kenta Maeda will go up against him at 5:10. And then 2 regularly scheduled 7:10 games, and that'll be all for the homestand. Dodgers then go out on the road, 3 in Miami. And by the way, it has been announced by the Dodgers Clayton Kershaw will pitch one of those 3 games with Miami. Then 3 at Yankee Stadium, 4 in Arizona, and then they come home for the final homestand of the year. So Grand Dayton will pick up for Jose De Leon, who had a rather impressive debut. De Leon going 6 and struck out 9. That's a strike. In a Dodger debut, Pedro Astacio, way back in 1992 in his first game, struck out 10. Kaz Ishii, back in 2002, struck out 10. And today, Jose De Leon strikes out 9. No balls and 2 strikes. The count to Oswaldo Arcia. Oswaldo Celestina Arcia. Still 0-2. Grand Dayton at a Madison, Alabama. Boy, did you see what Alabama did to USC? Whew. Well, national champions, and might be again for the 3rd year in a row. Anyway, from Alabama, he was an 11th round pick by the Marlins. 6'2", 200, 29 years old in November. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Arcia, Amarista, and we'll see about a hitter for Brad Hand. Ryan Buchter is loosening up in the San Diego pen, and Josh Fields in the Dodger pen. Off the corner, 2-2. We're in the 7th. The Dodgers 5 runs, 8 hits. Padres 4 runs, 6 hits. Dodgers trying to win their 10th against San Diego with 3 left late in September, starting on the 27th in San Diego. 3-2. Grant will be 29 25th of November. And a high foul that will go out of play. Trying to check what's new. Still 2-2 in Chicago. Bottom of the 12th inning. 2 out and a 1-2 count on the hitter. And the hitter strikes out. They're going to move on to the 13th inning in Wrigley. Whoops. Up and in. Arcia takes ball 4. And the batter will be Amarista.
Shortstop, Alexi Amarista.
In his debut, Jose De Leon went 6 innings, did not walk anybody. He did hit Dickerson, but otherwise he had good control. He allowed 4 runs, 6 hits, 1 home run by Yangervis Solarte. Luis Sardinas, a shortstop, is out on deck to bat for Hand. Runner at first, representing the tying run, and Amarista at the plate. Turner is on the edge of the grass at third. Gonzalez just off the bag by about 3 feet. Ready to come to the plate looking bunt, but then he has to back up, and Gonzalez takes a throw from Dayton. One of the first basemen to do a little something different holding a man on at first was Keith Hernandez back in his days with the New York Mets. And a strike, 0-1. Amarista, tough man to pitch to. About 5'6" or 7, but when he bends, that makes it a smaller strike zone. He has struck out, but he also singled and scored a run in the 5th inning. That's when the Padres actually took a 4-3 lead. Dodgers now lead 5-4. High and tight. Amarista just trying to get out of the way, lost his balance. 1 ball and 1 strike. You lean back and down you go. Amarista, 27 years old, from Venezuela, from Barcelona. 1-2. Amarista just coming back off the DL. He came back on at the start of this series. 1-2 the count. Foul back. Alexi Amarista, originally signed by the Angels, stayed with the Angels through 2011 and then moved over to San Diego. So that's not a bad trade. You go from Anaheim to San Diego. 1-2. Down he goes. Well, that'll do it. 10 strikeouts now for the swinging Padres. Luis Sardinas will be coming up as a pinch hitter. So all that means is in 3 games they struck out 30 times in Atlanta, and they come here and we're in the 7th inning of the 3rd game, and they have struck out a breathtaking 35 times. Mark McGwire, wow. And you can just hear him say, how many times have I? Oh, never mind. Sardinas, the shortstop, led off yesterday and had a walk and a double. Led off and had an infield single in 5 at-bats in the first game. Sardinas, good fielder. Question is whether he will hit enough to take the job over completely. He's from Venezuela. He's 6'1" and maybe 160 pounds, maybe. Runs very well. 0-2. One thing Sardinas did when he was with the Mariners were losing 12-1, and they took him out and made him a pitcher, and he did well. He retired the Cubs on 8 pitches. Still 0-2. Who did he get? Well, he got Addison Russell to hit a ground ball. Jason Hayward hit one back to the mound. And the infielder Javier Baez a fly ball. They also had a 74-minute rain delay. They were losing 12-1. And they decided to use him, and it worked out pretty well. First time on the mound. Popped up, foul behind the plate, and out of play. Lewis, 23 years old. Rangers signed him back in 2009. Brought up by the Mariners earlier this year and then moved over to San Diego. 0-2. Foul back. Sardinas is very handy with the glove. He has proved himself very worthwhile as a utility man. He has seen games daily at short, at second, at third, at first, in left field, and on the pitcher's mound. Yasmani out to talk for a moment. No balls and 2 strikes, the count to Luis. Meanwhile, we have come to that stage of the game where Mom is warm and soft, and the game is going along pretty well with a lot of strikeouts. So I'll catch you in the 8th. Runner goes, high chopper, charging is Seager, and makes the play. However, the tying run is now at second base with 2 out, and Travis Jankowski coming up. Meanwhile, in Chicago, they're going to the bottom of the 13th inning in a 2-2 tie. So the tying run at second base. Jankowski grounded out, had a bunt single, and then dribbled one. De Leon picked it up and threw it away. That helped set the stage for the Padres to score twice in the 5th inning. Ball 1. Two out, tying run at second, 5-4 Dodgers, 7th inning. One ball and 1 strike. Hi, fellas. Nice to see you awake. Ah, yes. Travis grounded to short, then reached twice. Down and away, ball 2. 2-1. So De Leon went 6. Finished with a flourish by striking out the side. Dayton with a tying run at second base, 2 down, and a 2-1 count to Travis Jankowski. 2-2. Dayton was originally signed by the Marlins. He was going to school at Auburn. Two balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Ah, yes. The swinging Padres. That is the 11th Padre to strike out. 36 Padre strikeouts in 3 games. And it's still 5-4 Dodgers. Bottom of the 7th inning with the Dodgers holding on to a 5-4 lead. The Padres bring in Brian Buckner. He's a big left-hander, 6'3", 215, from Reading, Pennsylvania, but now lives in Blackwood, New Jersey. He was originally drafted by the Washington Nationals. Gonzalez, a foul ball down the line, and the count 0-1. Adrian losing an extra base on a spectacular catch by Jankowski that would have driven in 2 runs in the first inning. Then he bunted for a base hit. Yep, bunted, and then struck out. So he is 1 for 3. 1-1. Amarista all alone at shortstop. Solarte on the other side of the bag. The deep man is Schimpf. And in the Dodger bullpen, Joe Blanton begins to warm up. Ball 2, 2-1. Here's Joe. Waiting on deck, Yasiel Puig, who has hit into a force play, hit a 3-run home run, and walked, scored a run. 2-1. Little dribbler to first. Will Myers will do it himself. And we have 1 out in the 7th inning. So here comes Puig.
Right fielder, number 66, Yasiel Puig.
Yasiel Puig with that 3-run home run. A big blow. Dodgers were trailing 2-0 when his home run gave them the 3-2 lead. The Padres came back with 2 to lead 4-3. So the Dodgers came back with 2 more of their own to lead 5-4. Last we heard, the Giants and the Cubs scuffling in the 13th in a 2-2 tie. Giants let it get away in the bottom of the 9th inning. Foul ball out of play. Giants led 2-1 in the 9th. Santiago Casilla gave up the run. Puig with Utley on deck. 1 ball and 1 strike. Ryan Buckner lives in New Jersey now. It's taken him a long time, really, to make it to the big leagues. There might have been a cup of coffee occasionally with Atlanta, just 1 game, 1 inning. Otherwise, he has spent 10 years in the minor leagues. 10. And that's a high strike, 2-2. So for a fellow like Buckner, 10 years in the minors, you certainly wish him well. To stay in the big leagues at least for a couple. Boy, he is dedicated. Three and 2. You know, when you talk about this fellow was drafted in what round, when you're drafted in the 33rd round, the chances of you making it, astronomical. In fact, since 2000, only 17 of the 420 players drafted in the 33rd round have ever made it to the majors, and most of them with just a cup of coffee. And here he is. And there it goes for ball 4. So the Dodgers have received 6 walks. They have 8 hits and they're leading 5-4. Chase Utley has grounded out, struck out, single to right. His single to right drove in a run. Hitting .257, 12 home runs. 45 runs batted in. (5-4) Dodgers. 1 out, 7th inning. Giants are in the 13th in Chicago. And a high fly playable ball. Schimpf going out and makes the catch. In fact, that's Solari, the third baseman. So Utley pops up. Solarte, who plays third, but when they load up the right side, he's playing second. That's the bad thing about this. You know, I really don't know how to keep score anymore. I mean, there's a pop fly. The third baseman catches it, but then I would write 5-3, but he was the second baseman, so it should be 4-3. So I've decided not to even think about it. If he started the game at third, he's going to make the put out as a third baseman. 2 down. Grandal has to turn around and bat right-handed and promptly hits a towering fly ball down the left field line. If it is fair, it's going to go in the stands, and it is fair. A 2-run home run, and the Dodgers lead 7-4. So Yasmani Grandal, who hit the big 3-run home run last night, hit a 2-run home run It didn't get into the seats by much, but it spent a long time high in the air. And for the left fielder, Dickerson, he's going to give it his best shot and can't quite make it. Almost, but no cigar. Great effort. Corey Seager takes ball one. So the Dodgers now have some breathing room as Grandal does it again. 23 home runs and 6 against his old club. A little rare in the fact he hit it as a right-handed batter. He has 3 of his 23 home runs right-handed. Dickerson really gave it a great effort and came awfully close, but not close enough to catch it. 1 ball and 1 strike. Two and one the count. Corey Seager came in as a pinch hitter for Charlie Culberson in the 5th inning and struck out against Brad Hand. Two and two. Seven runs, 9 hits for the Dodgers. That's popped in the air down the left field line. Amarista goes out, but here comes Dickerson, and that's it. At the end of 7-4 Dodgers. Inning in Wrigley Field. Watch this pitch. It's almost in the dirt, and it slopped into center field for a base hit, scoring the winning run against the 10th Giant pitcher, Matt Reynolds, and the Cubs win their 88th game, beating the Giants 3-2. So the Giants lose 3 of 4 to the Cubs. And by the way, the Giants in that series batted .106 at the plate. So the Dodgers have a chance to open up the lead to 3. And here's Joe Blanton working on Will Myers. Myers suffered a big embarrassment in the 5th inning. 2 runs scored. He drove in 1, but then he was picked off first base. 1 ball and 1 strike. We're in the 8th. Myers, Solarte, and Dickerson, and the Dodgers with a comfortable lead of 7-4. All right, it's time, isn't it? I'm sure you're waiting with bated breath. Dodgers leading 7-4. Eighth inning, nobody on base. So another dazzling question coming up. That's a strike, 2-2. This really sounds like a joke. What was King George VI first name? King George VI. 2-2 the count. And fouled away. Well, King George, his name was Albert. Seven runs, 9 hits, 1 error for the Dodgers. 4 runs, 6 hits, no errors for the Padres. One more for the inning. It's a bird question. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Foul back. What color is a purple finch? Next. What color is a purple finch? The answer is crimson. Yep. Okay, 2-2 the count. Foul ball back. 7 runs, 9 hits, 1 error for the Dodgers. Got a 3-run home run from Yasiel Puig and a 2-run home run from Yasmani Grandal. San Diego, 4 runs, 6 hits. They had a 2-run home run by Yangervis Solarte. Foul back. I only have 2 more questions left. So if you're good, I'll wait until the 9th inning. Myers has struck out, grounded out, single to right. A hungry hitter, and he's a very good one, but he's hitting around 200 since the All-Star break. Foul ball, out of play. Will Myers from High Point, North Carolina. He's had a couple of high points. American League Rookie of the Year in 2013. Grand Slam home run at Yankee Stadium against CC Sabathia. 2-2. And a high fly ball, but into shallow right. Utley says, hold on. 1 away. MLB.TV Premium. That's the #1 live streaming sports service, and it delivers every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 devices. Blackout and other restrictions apply. So visit MLB.TV for details. Yangervis Solarte singled, hit a 2-run home run, a scoring fly ball, and now a base hit to center. So he's provided all the action, really.
Left field, #1, Alex Dickerson.
Solarte, 3 hits in this game. He was 1 for 4 last afternoon. And he had a single and a home run in the first game. So he's been very busy and very productive. So here's Dickerson, hit by a pitch, popped up, struck out, a strike. Padres have struck out 11 times. That means the team has struck out 36 times in 3 games. 0-1. 1-1. In the bullpen for San Diego, Morrow the right-hander, Campos another right-hander. One ball, one strike. Fastball hit up the middle, right where Seager is. On the bag, doubles him at first. That easy. No runs, a hit, nobody left. At the end of 7.5, 7-4, Dodgers.
Not want to miss coming to Dodger Stadium on Saturday, September 24th, when 50,000 limited edition commemorative coins will be distributed in his honor. Presented with a certificate, these solid bronze coins are individually numbered and minted with an image of Vin and his signature greeting quote. For more information, visit Dodgers.com/LA loves Vin.
Bottom of the 8th inning, 7-4, favor of the Dodgers. Leonel Enrique Campos from Valeria, Venezuela, 6'3", 185 pounds. "29 years old. Originally signed by the Padres in 2010. 6'3", 185. And he'll be working on Andrew Toles, the pinch hitter. Foul ball, 0-1. Dodgers trying to give everybody a little bit of work. Seager pinch hit and then stayed in. Seguin pinch hit. Grandal pinch hit and stayed in. Roberts checking with Jock Peterson. And Toles takes low. In the Dodger bullpen, Kenley Jansen loosening up. Kenley came in to strike out the side yesterday on 15 pitches. One and one to Toles. Little nubber back to the box. Campos, one away.
Left fielder, number 47, Howie Kendrick.
Howie Kendrick is coming up, grounded out twice, single to center, and struck out. So Howie checking in, hitting .272. Kind of interesting, the story behind Leonel Campos. He was really a soccer player in Venezuela. Ball one. In fact, he wasn't signed until the Padres picked him up at 23. And we're always telling you about the big bonuses. This fella signed for $2 million, $1.5 million, etc. He signed for $1,000. Foul ball down the line, out of play. They say he has a very good slider. Fastball, curve, and changeup to go along with it. Leonel Enrique Campos. He had to have Tommy John surgery in 2011. We have one out, bottom of the 8th inning. Dodgers lead 7-4. Joc Pederson, after talking to the manager, now comes out on deck to bat for Hernandez. Pretty good fastball, fought off. That was 94. Campos, they say, has hit 98 on the gun. Actually, he pursued being a pro soccer player until at 23 he went to baseball. Another good 94. 2 balls and 2 strikes the count. Howie Kendrick. Dodgers have the best record in the daytime in the major leagues. If they hold on to the win, their record in the daytime, 26 wins, 12 losses. 2-2. Oh, Howie just keeps beating them foul. 1 out. When the Padres come up in the 9th inning, Schimpf, Sanchez, and Arcia will be coming up against Kenley Jansen. Padres have lost 7 of the last 10. Dodgers trying to pin them with another loss today. Another foul ball. Dodgers had won 9 of 14. So if they win, they will have won 10 of 15, and the remaining 3 in San Diego at the end of September. All right, 2-2 the count to Howie Kendrick. Big bouncer. Amarista takes it, has to double clutch, and got him on a bang play. It would have been easy, but he didn't get a grip on it. And Amarista gets him anyway, and we have 2 down. Here's the double clutch, right? Once, up, twice. Now let's see, they're waiting for Kendrick to get back to the dugout, and Joc Pederson will be coming up. 7-4 Dodgers. The paid attendance today, 46,441. Seeing Joc Pederson batting for Kike. Hernandez single, robbed of a hit by Dickerson, struck out and walked. So he wound up going 1 for 3, and now Joc gets a chance. And ball 1. They load up the right side. Solarte has moved over. Amarista all alone and guarding the third base area in case of a bunt. They've already been burned once. Line drive. What a catch by Wil Myers. Whoa. Great catch by the first baseman. You talk about climbing the ladder. Major league reflexes all in one. Take a look. Up you go. And down you come with the ball. Wow. And at the end of 8, 7-4 Dodgers. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by BMW. See a Southern California BMW Center today for exceptional offers or visit SoCalBMW.com. We go to the ninth inning. Kenley Jansen ready to go to work. Jock Peterson is now in center field replacing Hernandez. Kenley, who came in last night, struck out the side on 15 pitches. He also appeared in the last game with the Cubs, so he's pretty well rested. And into the ninth we go with Schimpf, Sanchez, and Arcia. Schimpf has struck out 3 times, though a tough afternoon for him. Light breeze blowing the other way, right to left. That's a little unusual, but it's not much of a breeze. 0-1 to Ryan Schimpf. Dodgers trying to beat the Padres for the 10th time. Another strike. Remember, the Padres have struck out 10 times. They have struck out 35 times in the 3 games. One and two. Dodgers have had a 3-run home run by Puig, 2-run home run by Grandal. Padres had a 2-run home run by Solarte. Check swing, did he? No. 2-2. Two balls and 2 strikes to Ryan Schimpf. Down he goes. Well, that's 12 strikeouts in the game. Tomorrow at 5:10, Zach Greinke 12-4 against Kenta Maeda at 13-8. I certainly hope you'll spend part of the holiday with us tomorrow at 5:10. That should be a good one. All right, you've been good. We have 2 questions left. 1 out, 9th inning, 7-4 Dodgers. Here's Hector Sanchez. Change for ball 1. Where are Chinese gooseberries from? One ball and no strikes to Sanchez. Fastball fouled away. Chinese gooseberries are from, altogether, New Zealand. Now, you might actually know the last one. You really might know this one. All the others, impossible. 1 ball and 1 strike. Ball 2, 2-1. 7 runs, 9 hits, 1 error for the Dodgers. 4 runs, 7 hits, no errors for the Padres. The swinging Padres have struck out 12 times today and 37 times in the 3 games. Drive into left center. Peterson on his horse, but it's over his head. Hits the wall on the fly. Sanchez to second. The throw, the backhanded tag, got him. And to be honest, that didn't make any sense. You're down by 3 in the 9th inning. Why would you gamble? You'll have to ask the man himself. The Sanchez singles, and he is nailed on a great backside tag by Chase Utley. There's the drive. Peterson going to play it off the wall. Fires quickly in. There's Utley making that backhanded tag. And we now get the fact that the Padres are asking for a review. So we shall see. Hector Sanchez, bad gamble. Not thinking about gamble. He's just thinking to try and get an extra base. So we'll see. That was a tremendous effort by Chase Utley, and the runner is out. So 8-6 from Jock Peterson to Chase Utley. Utley is thinking, okay, I hear the crowd roar. He's going to try for two. I'm really not quite in position. The throw is behind me, and then he makes a dazzling tag. Though Sanchez sits it out with two down. Arcia the batter. And the final question, the one I think you might know. Jansen ready. And a strike. What is the color of the black box in a commercial airplane? That's the one I think you'll know. What is the color of the black box in a commercial airplane? 0-1 the count. 0-2. You're right. Orange. Okay, that's the only one I knew. So I was only wrong 9 out of 10. All right, 0-2. The crowd is standing 46,441. The Dodgers need an out, and there'll be 3 games in front of San Francisco. 1-2. Don't forget, tomorrow at 5:10, the Dodgers will finally see Zack Greinke. One ball and 2 strikes. Little ground ball to short, backhanded by Seager. Throws him out, and that'll be that. So a good day all around, and especially for the Dodgers as a team. They're 3 games in front of San Francisco. Giants blew a 2-1 lead in the 9th inning and finally lost it in the 13th. It was also a big day for Jose De Leon, who has to be the player of the game. He went 6, struck out 9. His mom and dad were here to enjoy every single out. He did allow 4 runs, 5 hits, but for a kid fighting first-time jitters, I'm sure he did very, very well. And so did his mom and dad. And De Leon gets a big hug from, of all people, Yasiel Puig. So I'm sure he'll get the batting card. He'll get all kinds of first-timers. And for Jansen, well, he only made 13 pitches this time as the Padres literally go down swinging. So the Dodgers win at 7-4, 5:10 tomorrow with Arizona and Zack Greinke. We'll talk to you then. Till then, wish you all a very pleasant good afternoon, everybody.